Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live premiere. Appreciate it. Today, we do have some breaking news, and it's to do with Justin Rounds calling out Candice Cooley in a negative way. Now, all of this was publicly posted on Facebook, and then shortly afterwards deleted, though the odd individual was able to get a screenshot of the post. So shout out to them. We're going to take a look at the post and comments made by Justin and try and understand what's going on, what's gone wrong, and just try and understand it from different angles and perspectives, right? I know people say drama, conflict isn't necessary within cases like this, but something like this is inevitable, and it's quite telling. This is within the case with key individuals, right? Maybe it's because emotions are at a high. Maybe there's tension because not really getting anywhere, lack of progress. Who knows? But maybe we can get a better understanding later on in this video, or maybe towards the end. So as we do go along, be sure to share your thoughts, opinions, and reactions, the live chat, right-hand side. And as well, if you've got additional comments or questions or grievances, list them down below in the comment section, right? So it's quite an important video today, a different angle, a very specific theme with key individuals, okay? Now, what we can also do is add in some more bulk, right? And catch up on previous things which we haven't done so yet. That'll be the comments of the last video. We need to take a look at them, some interesting points, see if there's any questions that need answering, asking, right? And see if there's any additional interesting information, right? As well, later we can take a look into this video, one of the recent new articles to do with Brenner's court hearing. We can check for it to see if there's any inconsistencies, if there's any misinformation, just to clear things up there, like how we have done most recently, right? So there's a range of different things to look at today, and of course the main focus and the breaking news, which will incorporate material screenshots of post from Facebook, right? So just one thing just to highlight, apologies if my flow isn't perfect today. It's just really hot and it really is annoying me. I'm sticky, I'm itchy, I'm uncomfortable. It really does annoy me, okay? Normally, I just wouldn't be doing a video, right, when it's like this. I hate the UK, I hate the weather, but this is breaking news. It's an important focus and an important time, right? So regardless of all the other factors around me and roadblocks and barriers, I'm pushing on forwards and sharing it with you. So be sure to maintain a level of focus, try and absorb as much information, jot down notes, do whatever that needs to be done, okay? What we'll do first of all is ease in, look at the previous comments of the last video of Dylan Rounds. I will provide links down below, important ones, so you can catch up on recent Dylan Round videos that I've done, okay? And it will allow people as well just to join on into this video when we're looking at the beginning part. So let's head on over to the comments now. And then once we've got that done, then we can move on to the main part of this video. Make sure to stick around. Let's go. Right, so I'll just adjust it to the newest comments, and we start from the bottom, work our way up. Focus time, well, it was yesterday and it is once again. Cleo, yes, maintaining focus. We got Linda Cushing. So let's just read this. This is some additional side drama and issues going on. Just spread a bit of awareness for those that are out of the loop, right? And in case anyone wondering why someone like Linda may be quiet for the foreseeable future, let's begin reading. Linda says, Warlike Raf, I will not be commenting anymore. I'm just going to watch the videos from now on. For the last couple of weeks when I commented on your videos and went to Miss T's channel, I have been receiving disgusting emails, so I have made the decision not to comment anymore. So it's understandable that. I know previous Linda said she was going to cool off here and there just simply because of disruption in the chat, but I guess it's got much worse since and more personal. So my question would be, how did people get Linda's email, right? I know on your YouTube channel, in the About section, you can have your email there publicly viewable, but I don't think I've ever seen it there. So how did people get a hold of it and why, Bit odd. Tom, there you go. Sorry to hear that, Weezer says. Legion of Doomski saying, ha ha ha, Jimmy and Marky are angry you support Miss T. Ha ha ha. How could you support her after everything Jimmy has done for you? Ha ha ha. Marky, take those off your head. Ha 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 ha. The thing is, what's the definition of supporting someone, right? I mean, if you're just simply watching someone's video or leaving a comment or chatting in the chat, it doesn't directly mean to say that you're supporting a person, right? You're just tagging along, maybe because you want to talk to them about something or talk to other people that are present in that chat. It's kind of like how Mr. X doesn't support my channel, but he still comes on into my channel, like in the past, to chat with some of his people, right? So why can't Linda do the same thing and go elsewhere? It's like that dog leash effect, where it's more of an external circumstance, this, but you branch away or you go elsewhere, and then someone from back over that way is like pulling you back, saying, whoa, you can't be doing that. No, come back here. Or if you do go off there, you'll be punished. Seems a bit silly, in my opinion. But yeah, so let's just continue reading. Sketchy saying, block the sender and do what you want. If you rather not comment, then don't, but don't let anyone make that decision for you. We are all adults, and I know you are tough. So we got Famous Op. Some of you will be familiar with who Famous Op is. A long-ish time viewer, but went quiet for several months now. What did they say? I had to stop the comments also for people reporting me for no reason. I don't want to lose my channel. I also had to stop. Oh, she just repeated the same thing. So Famous Up has also been receiving some form of resistance too. Someone's reporting her channel for no reason, and she doesn't want to lose it. Now the thing is with Famous Up, yeah, she's been commenting on my channel in the past, but I never really saw her elsewhere. You get what I'm saying? Or is that the thing? She has been commenting elsewhere in recent time, and that's what led to her being quiet on my channel. I'm not quite sure. It's only because I do remember seeing Famous Up leaving a comment on Ty Corbyn's channel like a couple of weeks ago. It might have been to do with the hat being found. And I was just thinking, so if Famous Up can't comment here because she doesn't want her channel to be reported, then why is she commenting elsewhere? Is it because she's commenting in the right place to not receive resistance? Maybe. But yeah, all in all, it's a little bit dodgy what's going on. It seems to be targeted and specific to certain people, right? Let's continue reading. Diana Bond saying, whomever is sending you disgusting emails should stop. We are all here for the same reason, to figure out where Dylan Rounds is. Don't pay no mind to the emails. Jacqueline also saying, I'm sorry to hear that, Linda. Very stupid of whoever is emailing you. Just delete emails. Don't open and read them. Take care. Now, you got the questions of why are certain people being targeted over others, and why now all of a sudden, and who by exactly, right? Maybe you can make ideas in your own mind or concepts, but we try and maintain focus today, right? There are more important things, arguably, to be talking about. Just wanted to read that comment out so people who regularly watch my channel, my videos, are aware why some people are quiet these days, okay? Indiana keeping us upheld for a game of football, just in cricket. It was a very good game of football, to be honest. Kathleen, I was still typing those words for org. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Cleo, amazing work. Thank you. You're welcome. Mary Kelly saying, C. Ty Corbyn assistant found a hat matching Dylan's off the road close to Don Hately's driveway. Yeah, I'm aware of that. I know it wasn't directly Ty Corbyn, but he documented it afterwards. And then that other person that found it, which was a woman, was called like Kaylee or something, but spelt different to the Kaylee from Pancake's channel, right? Though, this is the thing, no update yet. Does anyone have updates on the hat found, which Ty Corbyn made a video about in the first place? Anyone? Feel free to list it down below. Skeptical by nature saying, Jim Brenner looks guilty and sorry, he's the only one that got caught. Still don't think he's alone in what happened to Dylan Rounds. Fair point. I mean, you know, I know some people could say it's a sympathy act, but he did appear to look down or kind of negative. You know, was it a sign of guilt or just a simple feeling of, oh, I feel so bad, but that's only because I got caught. If I wasn't caught, I'd still be laughing, smiling and doing whatever, maybe. And that feeling of other people being involved in some way or another, it might come true down the line. It just depends what evidence is found, right? If there is any more evidence to find. Skeptical also saying, nope, don't agree. The eye blink could be pain from the injury and chains on legs. He continues to blink as he walks. Looks over exaggerated. Yeah, could be a little bit exaggerated. Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds thought it was exaggerated, if not completely staged and all faked. But he didn't make any eye contact with the people sat down, did he? He was looking straight ahead. Yeah, he was blinking quite a bit, maybe some form of discomfort, or it be physical or just because he's surrounded by people. But at the end of the day, he did not make any eye contact. So what does that mean? Let me know your thoughts down below. This guy saying, I keep getting lost in the desert. Well, if you got a compass, maybe that will help. Don Hately, in my opinion, was part of it and knows where our boy Dylan is. Maybe, I guess it's just a matter of trying to get a hold of Don Hately and maybe asking him questions, if that would even work. Justin Rounds does seem quite locked on to Don Hately still, so it does make you think, right? Pack and go. Jim Brenner can get phone and internet in jail. Does he still get his disability checks in jail? I often wonder if he watches your channel to see what you're thinking and exposing on Google Earth, etc. But we don't know, unfortunately. And more like Raf, it's getting more harder to leave comments and follow your live with strange changes on YouTube recently. What are these strange changes on YouTube recently, Pack and Go? Can you explain in the live chat? Is it YouTube censoring you? Is it harder to say certain things without comments being automatically removed? I don't know. Like, people have had issues in the past with leaving comments and it was very random and it didn't make any sense and it was YouTube playing up. So has it got tighter, more restricted now? Anyone else going through the same thing? Let me know down below. Also, Pack and Go saying, the shed is messy and dusty like Dylan's trailer. True. Very hard to see tracks, blood splatter or anything and too dirty to be a clean-up job done. I don't think Dylan was for inside that shed. I zoomed into the pic here of that hole and I seen something purple and a strange cup shape or sunglasses or something besides it. Did you zoom in? Let me know if you see it too. You talk about that like white object. I saw like a white object that was within the hole, half buried or so. And I don't know where it really was. I mean, if it was anything of importance, surely someone would have picked it up, reported it or noticed it, right? The ones digging the hole in the first place, or even the likes of Pancakes and whoever else that went down there and investigated the hole, right? That's all I'm saying. What's the response? Someone called Alexia, new viewer, shout out to Alexia, saying, you're right, there is something purple in the hole. Maybe a can of beer. The colour is similar but not the same. But I see it too. Whoever dug or checked that hole saw it for sure. Or not. Maybe. I'm colourblind. I did see something white though. Unless I'm looking in the wrong spot. Anyone else in the chat noticed a purple looking coloured object within the hole of the Grainshed property? Let me know in the chat. Diana Bond, if the dogs reacted on more than one spot, then the theory of him being dismembered is true. I can understand that, Diana, where you're coming from there. But the only thing I would say is, if Dylan Rounds was dismembered and he was a little bit of him was put here and there and further afar, then why are those zones completely empty when dug up? You get what I'm saying? If you was to dispose of a full body of a person into a hole and cover it up, DNA can seep and leak into the soil, right? If you go back to unearth it, pick the body out and go elsewhere and then dispose of it, that can happen too, right? So the DNA is like imprinted within the ground in that spot temporarily as you move on to the next zone to dispose of the body properly, right? And if you get in time to uncover this spot, obviously the remains won't be here because they have been moved, but you can get the soil sample and prove that Dylan was once here. I get that. But linking back to your point, Diana, about dismemberment, is it practical to think that Brenner would go to a spot such as one of the two spots, the grain shed or the undisclosed place described by Candice Cooley, to dig up and then bury Dylan's leg or arm in that slot, cover it over, then go to the next key spot and then put Dylan's other leg or foot in that hole and then cover it up. And then go back to those areas and then unearth it, pick it out, and then go elsewhere after. It seems a bit too far-fetched. You get what I'm saying? You can understand one of the forms of desecration, concealing a body, hiding it, and then removing it elsewhere to find a better, more suitable spot, right? The act of desecration, destroying remains, breaking it up, chopping it up, normally that tends to be a one-time thing where once you've chopped those parts up and remains, when you dispose of them and you don't go back. You get what I'm saying? Because if you did go back, then you've got to go to all these different zones to unearth this, unearth that head, and then that hand over there and that foot down there. It just seems a bit too long-winded. Yeah. And as well, the only other point I would say, if it truly was the case that there was dismemberment, a little bit chucked here and a little bit chucked there, then why, when it came to digging it up and creating that hole to see what was there, nothing was found? You thought there would have been if dismemberment took place. Let me know your thoughts in the chat, what you think. Anyone, should we do a poll right now? Just a little poll right now. Does anyone think that Dylan was dismembered? Feel free to vote. Jacqueline also saying, it's fairly obvious that Candice Cooley doesn't want info going out at the time she hears it. She wants the public out of the way for some reason. I can understand that. It's hot news, on the spot, brand new and fresh. Really only you and select people need to be the ones to hear about it and check for themselves and search. As for the general public, who could get in the way possibly or cause a bit of disruption, if it can happen on YouTube, levels of disruption, it most definitely would happen face-to-face in real life. Once they've done the searches, they found what they needed to found or may have not found anything, then I guess they can check it off the list and then down the line in a month's time talk about it on a news channel, in a live panel, live interview, and go from there. But that doesn't always happen, as we've heard, as we've known, as we've covered on my channel. But there are some little stories and events or things that were pending which were never explained down the line, like those drone pics which were taken by the Heavy D Diesel Brothers crew with Candice Cooley just in rounds back in 2022 before Texas Research came down. We never heard about the update regarding those photos which were being analysed. You know what I'm saying? We never really heard a backup with the update with the backhoe, right? Supposedly with blood on, which was then supposedly lost. We've never heard that from Candice Cooley. And it's like, what else is in the background which isn't fresh information and actually old news but never talked about publicly? You get what I'm saying? If it's old and not much was found, then it's not that important. So then why not bring it up in a conversation? Maybe because it's that irrelevant. That's one point someone made last night. I get that. Though maybe if that was the case, the only way to counter it would be to leave comments, questions regarding it towards Candice Cooley, or when there's the next live interview on Doug's channel, right? Jacqueline also says, I hate to say this, but he could have been folded up. I hate to say this. His legs could be over his head. I followed a case of a missing girl when found on his father's property. She was folded over in a rug and hidden in a shed. Right, so I get what Jacqueline is talking about. So when disposing of Dylan Rounds, the possibilities are that maybe Dylan was literally folded in half, which could involve bones breaking, right, to that extent, and then maybe wrapped up in some kind of material and disposed of that way. Why would that need to be the case? Well, maybe because you want to create a small hole, or where you're putting the person, it's in a very small, tight spot, so you've got to, bunch the person up, right, for it to work and fit. I mean, possibility, right? Actually, quick question. If you was to fold somebody up, crumple them up, almost like a scrapyard of a car in a machine being crushed, and it involved bones being broken, but it didn't involve dismemberment or being burned, does it still fall under one of the key forms of desecration, like destroying the remains? Like, if dismemberment applies to the desecration part and a charge, where you chop up a person, then could it apply to if used to break bone, but not chop up, just fold up? Anyone know? Feel free to explain. Alexa, long comment here, saying, in one case here in Italy, the police discovered the place where the body of a girl was buried before it was found in another place, in an abandoned barn after 1 year. Situation very similar to the one in the photo. In the first hole, the underlying and surrounding ground was full of DNA attributable to the girl. In any case, the particles can degrade but do not disappear. In Dylan's case, maybe you can't associate the DNA, but there is degraded DNA or something. Whose can it be seen the only one missing is him? They have not looked for anything. Sorry for the mistakes. I'm not English speaking. I hope you understand the concept. Yeah, I understand, and I'm sure Tasha T will understand even clearer because of Italy. But yeah, shout out to Alexia, new viewer in recent time, showing on up. I think she might have commented on the Kenny Veach case as well. So there's like examples of it already happening, and that DNA can still be there. Right, degraded DNA. Okay. I mean, you could think that they must have found something, even though Candice Cooley said they didn't find anything, for Candice Cooley to say it all went down in the grain shed. That's where Dylan was taken out. So they must have some evidence, something at some point to suggest that is where it happened. And maybe it does link to the hole, even though Candice Cooley said no forensics were done. Does that make sense? Jacqueline also saying, are we sure it was Brenner and his horse? How does Candice know it was Brenner's horse? This is referring to the horse tracks which were supposedly spotted by Candice Cooley near to the railroad tracks, which is across the wash. Don't know how they would have got there, and I don't know if they did do the shortcut or went the long way around so it was easier to get to. I don't know. Now, is it for certain horse tracks? I mean, maybe, but what about who does it really belong to? Well, that's a completely different question, right? How can you be so sure that it's Brenner's horse? Maybe the only point you could put across is because that's the only horse that's around on that property. There are no other horses nearby. Well, there you go. That could confirm that. Though the only problem is, and it all depends when things happened, because Candice Cooley referred to search and rescue on horseback was used when looking for Dylan Rounds, could one of the search and rescue crew members on horseback created those track marks? I don't know, because I don't know when Candice Cooley saw those horse tracks near to the railroad. Was it once she got down there on the 30th of May, or was it sometime in June after the presence of search and rescue? You know, that's the only problem there. And as well, you think of track marks, simple vehicle track marks, you can easily get confused to who they belong to, right? Kind of like with Mob Crew Chris in the early days with the drone footage, came across some track marks in a wash, wherever it was, and it looked like excavator marks. Later confirmed that it was caused by search and rescue, but for some time, there was a bit of confusion, not knowing who it really was, right? And that's because when you get people coming on over, visitors, more so like the volunteers and the actual groups, the authority coming on into the place, they're all leaving footprints behind and marks, so it can really disturb the area and cause a bit of directional confusion, right? It's different if you're using drones and a flyby helicopter because you're not leaving any marks on the ground. And like how that was supposedly used right at the beginning, that was like the most fresh time to be looking at the area and observing it without it being too disrupted. Though, as time's passed on now, a year has elapsed, it's going to be a lot different, right? You might see stuff which wasn't originally there, but it's not to do with Dylan or not as relevant. You get me? Is that it for the comments? Okay, let's move on. So I appreciate everyone's patience. If you have suddenly joined, welcome. If you want to rewind and catch back up, feel free. But right now we're transitioning on to the main part of this video. We're focusing on the breaking news, the latest news in the Dylan Rounds case. And that's to do with Justin Rounds calling out Candice Cooley in a negative way. So I'll give a bit of a brief backstory, okay, to how things came about so you got a better idea and understanding. God, it's warm here. You know, it's hard to breathe in this room. It's too warm, it's annoying. Anyway, that aside, so basically a couple of days ago, Justin Rounds left a few more comments and posts on Facebook, his Facebook account. Kind of like what we saw a couple of weeks ago, and basically the same as what we saw back in 2022, right? He posts something, a form of emotion is displayed by him, frustration, sadness, maybe a bit of anger. It's understandable, but he ends up deleting the post afterwards, maybe because he realizes it's not necessary, that he made a mistake, maybe, right? But here and there, managed to get screenshots of the stuff and able to present it to you so you see raw emotion and you kind of see what people are really thinking in here, right? Because it can slip out at times. And this focus, this time round, it's more directed towards Candice Cooley. Now, Don Hately, there's a reference there to Don Hately as well, which we'll get to, but as I said, the main focus is towards Candice Cooley. So maybe to some people, it will come as a shock. Now, what I want to reiterate, and I want to make sure that everyone is clear and understands that this was all public, all publicly posted by Justin himself. Yes, it's no longer there, but that's only because it was deleted. But the original post with original intent, it was all public information, publicly viewable. And if you were there at the place at the time to screenshot it, public information, if you want to call it that, okay? So anyone in the chat, if you come across any resistance or anyone trying to twist and manipulate this video or the meaning of it, make sure to correct it. And just in general, make sure to spread awareness of the backstory I provided so people aren't misguided and it doesn't cause any disruption or trouble, right? Hopefully people understand, because it is very serious, this, and important, right? Not just to maintain focus, but to, understand the meaning behind it and the backstory to how it all came about, right? So what we're going to do, we're literally going to get right into the screenshots of the comments and posts made by Justin and go from there, analyze if necessary, give my thoughts and opinions. And of course, if you want, feel free to share your thoughts, responses in the live chat. Let's head on. So here is the first post by Justin Rounds, and he was sharing it with Don Hately. As you see top of the screen, Justin Rounds is with Don Hately. So he's basically sharing it to Don, I guess, to spread awareness, maybe to try and get a reaction out of Don, to let him know that things are going on, whatever. And Justin's caption, resharing the Nate Eaton post, reporter from East Idaho News, to do with Brenna appearing in court the 5th of June, all Justin Rounds had to say about it was, this is the view of a human piece of shit, right? This is the view of a human piece of... What does that mean? This is the view. Is Justin resharing this post more so because of the thumbnail, the photo of Brenna, to show that that's what Brenna looks like, that's what he looks like now, this is what you're going to look like, Don Hately, if you don't, step up or do something? I don't know. Is it to try and intimidate Don Hately? You got to understand that Don Hately is friends with Brenna, right? Maybe it's a form of emotional manipulation to try and get Don Hately to feel guilty or sorry. The fact that Brenna is supposedly suffering, and that when you look at the photo of Brenna, he looks very down and negative. And if Don's friends with Brenna, will Don end up opening up or doing something? I don't know. I want to know your thoughts in the chat. What do you think is the whole purpose and point to Justin Rounds resharing this post by Nate Eaton towards Don Hately? Is it done to get Don Hately to speak, open up, confess, or just to antagonise, annoy Don because Brenna is friends with Don? Maybe. EastIdahoNews.com, James Brenner, man accused of killing Dylan Rounds, appears in Utah court. So we have taken a look at this article, this being the transcript of, I guess, the video from the YouTube report on East Idaho News. So we have gone through it all. And in terms of the outcome of that court hearing, it wasn't that great. Not much came out. There was no plea, nothing like that. It was just talking about the attorneys and how it's going to be done and handled, and that was about it. Though we did get to see Brenner for the first time properly ever in an actual video footage. We saw his facial expressions, we saw his body language and movement, right? Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, thinking that Brenner was putting it on as like an act of sympathy for people to be more lenient and feel sorry towards him or so, to try and manipulate the family themselves so they feel sorry for Brenner. So that's like how it went down. So I wonder what Don Hately is thinking when he sees this post shared to him. Does Don Hately feel sorry for Brenner? Or is he not that interested? Anyone know? Feel free to share your ideas below. So yeah, this was the first post, and then it was deleted afterwards. I don't know why it was deleted, because it's not that bad, It's not that disruptive. It's just him resharing it, right? Anyway, let's move on to the next one. So it's an old post, but new comments by Justin. So don't know who the people are in the background, but the guy in the middle with that leather jacket on, I know there's some people in the chat that talk about leather man or leather face, whoever that is, but calm down. This person in that picture, the guy with the big belly and the leather jacket, is Don Hately, I believe, but when he was much younger, right? We have seen the odd photo of Don Hately over the course of when I've been covering the case, it first originated from Zav Girl's channel. She got a hold of a photo of Don Hately of more recent time. He's got a ponytail like how he does there. He's got a beard like how he does there, and he is on the big side. The only difference is the hair colour has changed, and that's just with age, right? I think some people said that Don Hately was like a biker into that. Can make sense. You see him with his like leather jacket on, maybe, demonstrates that. But yeah, I guess it's like a new photo which we've never seen before of the past of what Don Hately once looked like. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts down below. That's Don Hately on screen. As for the woman behind, I don't know who that person is. Providing following guidelines and stuff and no dodginess. If you know who the person is and you're able to explain, feel free. Okay. So yeah, that was updated to Don Hately's profile picture back in 2019. The key thing is, right? The key thing is, I think one of the viewers on my channel went onto Don Hately's Facebook page in the past, like back in 2022, and reported saying that Don Hately had a blank profile picture, a default one, and that he wasn't accepting any new friend request because it was getting a bit messy, and that Don Hately was friends on Facebook with Candice Cooley and maybe Justin Rounds. Kind of interesting, right? Kind of. So yeah, there you go. But I said the new thing is, although that says 2019, lower down, most recently, 3 hours ago, saying, "You fat bleep, you made a big mistake," right? So what about the exact relevance of it? When did it exactly happen, this? Well, yeah, it does say 2 hours ago, but does that mean 3 hours ago of today? No, but most recent, right? You got to take in mind that when the people took the screenshots of these posts, it's relevant to that time on that day, right? So yeah, this was the second one where there was activity by Justin Rounds commenting on Don Hately's profile. Let's move on to the next slide. Now this one is even more important. And before we go any further, I just want to give a backstory to what we're about to read. Basically, we're looking at a screenshot of Justin's post on Facebook, which he's added a photo to his post of a screenshot from his text SMS conversation between him and Candice Cooley, right? Take in mind that they're no longer a couple because they divorced back in 2005 or 2006 or something, but they're still in contact, and for good reason in recent time, because Dylan's disappearance, they are the parents. They've got to communicate with one another and meet up and try and search and spread awareness and do everything what they have been doing. Though I guess at times emotions can be high, either with both individuals or one, and it can lead to some falling outs or the odd bit of drama, disagreements, etc., right? So the photo, the text conversation was posted publicly by Justin Rounds himself. A text conversation between him and Candice Cooley. I just wanted to make that very clear before we look into it and read it, okay? So, we'll zoom in as well. Top is the post, 1 hour. Justin Rounds, caption, "This is how we get along, Candice Cooley. I'm glad you are in so much control." Wow. Right, okay. The interesting thing is here, over the course of time, people in the chat have made comments and references. Not me, other people, saying that Candice Cooley is a bit of a control freak, that she likes taking control and being in control. Like when it comes to searches, you go here, you go there, I want to go here and follow my orders. kind of like that. When it came to Box Elder, the police, LE, when they did their year in review of the case or something in the Box Elder Journal, end of 2022, they made a reference to Candice Cooley being hard to work with and her being very verbal and disruptive. And now you got Justin Rounds kind of being a bit sarcastic or so, saying, Candice Cooley, I'm glad you are in so much control, right? Now, it could be meant in different ways, of course. Let's just read what else is being said here, because there could be a different reference to it. So who is who in this text conversation? Well, from the looks of it, the black box text is Candice Cooley responding, I think. Let's just read it. So, Candice Cooley says, that's fine. Make it about Dylan and knock it off. If Dawn could be a potential witness, you just ruined it for the second time. Don. Oh, Candice Cooley mistyped. She meant to say, if Don Hately could be a potential witness, you just ruined it for the second time. The second time. What does that mean? What is Candice Cooley is referring to there? Well, I think I know what she is talking about. If we rewind back to 2022, okay? I can't remember exactly when it was, but I did document it on my channel if you wish to go back. We looked at the change in Justin Round's behaviour, calling out Don Hately for the very first time, saying, Don Hately, Brenner, dead men walking, you will see it before people like us. And then calling them out, meet me at the main line, Don Hately, bring your whole family and your gay son. You remember that one, that statement by Justin at the time? It was later deleted, that post. That was the first time Justin called out Don Hately, okay? The second time Justin called out Don Hately was like a couple of weeks ago now, where once again, we documented it on my channel, calling him out again, saying that, oh, I heard, Don Hately, that you live in Wyoming, Casper City. Maybe I should go down there and spill your guts, etc., 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 right? That was the second time Justin called out Don. And then shortly afterwards, that post was deleted, right? Now, why was it deleted? Maybe because Justin realised he made a mistake, or maybe this message here by Candice Cooley referring back to then, it was Candice Cooley telling him off. Does that make sense? So we've seen it over the span of time that Justin has, I don't know if it's fair to say, lost control, so ended up posting online, calling out Don Hately, and Candice Cooley is basically highlighting that because of what you've done, Justin, you could have ruined it for the second time now. And that's on the basis if Don Hately is a potential witness, right? So, very interesting that. The key word here, which is different to what we've seen, is witness. That Don Hately could be a potential witness, but not a suspect. You get what I'm saying? Now, it kind of ties back, interestingly, to what some viewers on my channel have referred to in the past, that is Don Hately in witness protection? Is Don Hately assisting and working with the police in the background? Yes, no. Maybe, maybe not. Here, Candice Cooley, although never mentioning it in live streams or interviews, she's suggesting here that Don Hately could know something about Brenner, where Dylan is at, what else happened on the day. And to be fair, it would make sense because Don Hately is friends with Brenner. Brenner may have opened up to Don before Brenner was taken away by police. As well, on the day Dylan was murdered, 28th of May 2022, Brenner did go down to Don Hately's place for the barbecue, and maybe Brenner opened up to Don saying what happened. And then possibly afterwards, Don Hately may have assisted Brenner in disposing of items of Dylan. You never know. And if any of that did happen, then technically you could say Don is a witness because he witnessed whatever happened, or he witnessed a confession by Brenner, or witnessed the disposal of Dylan Rounds, right? But then again, when would Don fall under the line of being a suspect? Would that be when Don physically involves himself in the murder or disposing of Dylan Rounds? Surely, right? To be a witness, probably being in the area, being present when it happens, or hearing the confessions, the information by Brenner towards you. So no physical direct involvement, but you're kind of present to see things unfold, visually or auditory, right? One of the two. That's interesting. Let's carry on reading. Candice Cooley says, at some point you have to stop and shut up and listen. So Candice Cooley is telling Justin Rounds to keep it in and keep your mouth closed. Candice Cooley saying, I have tried to be respectful, but you can't even be respectful towards our son. You're more worried about you than anything, and I'm over it. So, wow. Candice Cooley saying, and stop texting me back. You crossed the line today. And Justin's response is, how? Literally one word. I know people have said Justin is a man of few words, but they are meaningful and are emotional and have a passion behind it, right? This is very interesting, okay? As said, this was posted by Justin Rounds, a screenshot of a conversation he had with Candice Cooley recently. Now, going back over it all, Candice Cooley is criticising Justin for lacking control, emotional control, and I guess physical control. Candice Cooley doesn't approve of Justin calling out Don Hately publicly, trying to force him to open up, to confess if Don Hately is truly a witness or a suspect. By what Justin is doing, it could be harming the case in the eyes of Candice Cooley. So she's telling Justin to rein it in and keep control, or it could undo everything, right? I understand that from Candice Cooley's point of view, but I can also understand that Justin, it's probably very difficult and hard for him to keep it all together because everybody reacts in different ways with events like this, okay? Candice Cooley appears to be strong or somewhat strong to hold it together. She hasn't really cried or broken down on live streams or call-ins, interviews like that. She's kept it together for a reason. Justin has tried himself, but I guess when it comes to online, here and there, he does slip up a little bit, but he does delete the stuff afterwards, which, did he delete that stuff in the past and recent because he decided to, or was it because Candice Cooley made him, like how it's mentioned here? You get what I'm saying? Be sure to take it all in, absorb all this on screen, try and understand it, because, it's very interesting. So I think the reference here where Justin is saying, I'm glad you are in so much control, is being a bit sarcastic, saying, well, I'm glad you, Candice Cooley, can keep it all together emotionally, but someone like me, well, I'm different because maybe I care more. Kind of like that. So maybe it's not to do with the reference to Candice Cooley supposedly being a control freak, but more down to just keeping it together emotionally, right? When it comes to trying to find Dylan and keep on going. So I do get that now. Okay. Anything else to analyse here? It's just interesting saying Don could be a potential witness. You just ruined it for the second time. You ruined it. Second time. So what's the damage done? Is that game over now? Or is there still a chance? Is it because of Justin's behaviour? It might have intimidated Don Hately and put off Don Hately from opening up or speaking or saying anything. You get what I'm saying? Kind of I think, to be honest, where Candice Cooley says, and stop texting me back, you crossed the line today, that could be from the second call out of Don Hately by Justin, where Justin literally said publicly where Don Hately is roughly living in Wyoming, in Casper City, and saying, maybe I should go down there, you better watch yourself. Saying something like that could be seen as threatening language. It's a little bit disruptive. It's a little bit reckless, but you can understand it, Justin struggling himself emotionally. But when Don Hately sees a message like that, because he's shared in that post, if he reads that, Don might be scared, or Don might be annoyed by it and less likely to open up and reveal anything, right? So instead of just relying on Brenner, who may hold the key, if there are other avenues to go down to get a new lead or to get the information, but not directly from Brenner, then they could have been ruined. Those avenues could have been closed off now because of what Justin has said to Don Hately publicly. Yeah. So, a little bit messy, right? Yeah. Anything else? At some point, you have to stop and shut up and listen. I've tried to be respectful, but you can't even be respectful towards our son. You're more worried about you than anything, and I'm over it. So Candice Cooley is calling Justin out and saying that Justin Rounds is a selfish individual, putting himself first before Dylan Rounds. That's what Candice Cooley is basically saying here. That is interesting. Now, I wouldn't say Justin is doing it in that way. I'd say Justin is kind of like emotional at times, and everything he puts into his words are because he's thinking of Dylan, whether it be the desperateness, the desperation to find Dylan. Like, it's the thing, even at times, if Justin is a bit reckless, a bit messy, heavy-handed, it's with good intent in a way. Might not be easy to see or easy to read, but it's just because he's very passionate about trying to find his son. And when someone's very passionate, they will express it in different ways, whether it be emotionally, verbally, physically. Even the act of desperation, recklessness, carelessness, which could be interpreted as being selfish, it's not quite like that. You know, it's the passion, the drive to find Dylan and do whatever it takes. But I guess with Candice Cooley, she controls herself, conducts herself maybe better in some way. But then again, Candice Cooley was verbal at the start. You remember? At the start of the Dylan Rounds case in the early days, Candice Cooley publicly calling out the LE for all the mistakes made, for how they handled the case, because they felt, well, Candice Cooley felt that the police weren't doing enough and that Dylan Rounds' name may have been forgotten and not treated with a level of seriousness or care. At that time, did Justin Rounds call out Candice Cooley and tell her to shut up? I don't think so. Was Justin Rounds joining on in with Candice Cooley at the time and, you know, complaining to the same degree? No, not at all. He was pretty quiet in the early days. It's just more so now you're starting to hear Justin talk more. And it's like the roles have changed. It's like all been reversed, that now with Justin Rounds calling out people publicly, Candice Cooley doesn't like it and is telling him off. But it was okay for Candice Cooley to publicly call out the LE and maybe disrupt the case and disrupt key evidence which wasn't supposed to be talked about public, but was, because she had enough. Yet Justin Rounds didn't tell her off. You get what I'm saying? It's a little bit hypocritical in a way. It's okay for her to do it, but not for Justin. I want to know your thoughts, because this is very important and very interesting, this whole development going on. So yeah, once again, just to reiterate, it's a post by Justin Rounds publicly on his Facebook page before it was deleted, taken down, and he was sharing publicly a conversation between him and Candice Cooley. Okay, let's move on. So this one, I guess tying in line, and I guess tagging her as well. Justin Rounds saying, ask Candice Cooley, what she has done for her kids that are still alive, how often does she see them? So this is Justin Rounds taking a dig at Candice Cooley. What she has done for her kids that are still alive, how often does she see them? So when you see something like this, what Justin Rounds is saying is Candice Cooley doesn't give much care or attention to their kids because she's doing other stuff or too busy. So it is like a dig at Candice Cooley here. And the fact that it's saying, what has she done for her kids that are still alive? Not much at all from what Justin Rounds is saying here. So that implies that when Dylan Rounds was alive, the same applied then as well, if you look at it that way. I know there are some people in the comment section here and there over time saying that Candice Cooley never really visited Dylan Rounds or visited the children, but she didn't really interact much with them or something, or ignore them. And when I heard it at the time, I thought, where do you get that from? Where do you hear that? Like, is there any proof? And yet we see this in most recent time. Justin Rounds himself saying it, calling out Candice Cooley for not caring much, for not, I can understand this is a situation where, it's a bit messy, but it's public. This is what Justin is saying himself. What are comments below? Justin adds additional comments saying, if there were cameras there, Mama Bear would show up. What? Brian saying, do the younger kids still live with you? And someone called Brooke or Brookie saying, the main focus is Justin, that's all. Whatever happened between you two is the past. Let's do positive vibes and seek justice. No need to argue about something that will never amount to a single thing, please. So, maybe this links on to that, like a follow-on. They've had a bit of a disagreement, had a bit of a falling out recently because of Justin's recent actions and past actions when it comes to calling out Don Hately publicly and maybe intimidating him, which is doing more harm to the case than good. Candice Cooley making her thoughts and feelings very clear to Justin, and then Justin literally posting it public and thinking, whatever, right? I mean, is this normal to happen in a case, especially when it comes to the missing person family? Like, do they normally do this stuff, call each other out publicly online? Well, not both, because Candice Cooley hasn't. Candice Cooley hasn't, done anything like that, just Justin. But anyone seen this before? Is anyone shocked, surprised, confused? I mean, I wasn't expecting it, to be honest. I'll be honest. But yeah, the bit about calling Candice Cooley out for not being around, seeing the kids and maybe Dylan too when he was alive, that seems a bit of a awkward thing to say at a time like this when, both are suffering and going through a rough time, and other family members are as well. But then again, as said, people will react and act differently at a time like that. And the comment at the bottom saying, whatever happened in the past is in the past, just move on. Now, is Brooke referring to when Justin Candice Cooley divorced way back in the past? Or more so what's happened in recent times, some kind of disagreement falling out? I'm not quite sure. Do we have any of us? No, we don't. So yeah, these are the recent posts and comments made by Justin Rounds, as you see there, sharing with Don Hately, referring back to him once again, and then a few weeks ago, and then back in 2022. And then Justin even further commenting on an old post of Don's profile picture, insulting him because of his appearance. Then Candice Cooley telling Justin off for his recent behaviour and previous behaviour, and Justin disregarding it and just literally resharing the entire conversation on Facebook. And then this one here, further adding insult into the wound, if you call it that. Yeah, I mean, where do you go from here? Like, what happens next? If this is most recent, and it is most recent, is the atmosphere going to be more awkward now than before? You know, what about those interviews? Makes you think, right? As well, with this being very fresh, I believe it did happen a day or two before the 10th of June, and that's from yesterday, if I'm correct in saying. The reason why I'm referring back to that was because on June the 10th, that involved in Idaho, can't remember exactly where, but in Idaho Falls, I believe, where they were having that Ron or Don's, no, I think it's Ron's cook-off barbecue, in which, you know, like competitions or something, raising money, donating money made, going to that canine unit that has assisted when volunteering, looking for Dylan Rounds and other people. Candice Cooley and Justin Rounds attending that event to, I guess, spread awareness of Dylan Rounds and missing people, maybe give their own talk, connect with people, networking, and obviously the canine groups coming on down with 4 different dogs to provide training or, you know, demonstrations, right? So everyone can get all together and learn about it and raise money at the same time for good causes. So wouldn't that be awkward, you know, if a few days before you had this public display by Justin Rounds online, Candice Cooley not being too pleased about it, and them having an argument, and then Candice Cooley saying, I'm over this, I'm done with it, I've had enough. What was the atmosphere like a few days later when attending the event, which happened yesterday? Was it normal? Did they have to try and keep a straight face, put up with each other? You get what I'm saying? Was it a bit of tension? Anything going on there? Because it might even make you look back now. You can if you want. Like, with all those interviews in the past, mainly on the East Idaho News channel, because that's where most of the interviews took place, with both of them in the same room as one another, next to each other, and maybe the Heavy D interview as well in the Grain Shed. When you look back now with what you now know of, could you ever say that there was ever any tension, resistance, frustration building up between the two as they were sat next to each other, as one was talking, the other one wasn't? Because how it's always appeared was, during these interviews, Justin never really spoke that much. Maybe he's talked a little bit more in recent time, but for most part of it, he kept quiet. Candice Cooley did most of the talking. Now, did Justin ever appear frustrated, or like he was holding frustration back with keeping his mouth shut throughout those interviews? Anyone confirm that? I mean, we've seen him where he had his arms crossed or folded like that. It looked like he was holding something within. And maybe because Candice Cooley, I'm just saying on the basis if this was the case, if Candice Cooley did it in that way, that she didn't allow Justin to speak openly and, you know, release more emotion, I guess it bottled up, it built up and then erupted like a volcano, which led to Justin publicly calling out Don Haley and getting frustrated and angry at the same time, because the emotion built up and it got too much. Whereas someone like Candice Cooley, that can always be on the go talking, she's always releasing it out and just, you know, just releasing a bit of tension with time. Yet Justin, what, does he not have the same opportunity or chances because he's not allowed to talk? Or is it something like Candice Cooley was already aware of how Justin can erupt, so she didn't want Justin making a show or a scene of things within these interviews and purposely said, try and keep quiet, I'll do the talking because I know what you're like? Was it more like that? Either Candice Cooley had it under control because she knew what would happen with Justin, or they weren't aware, and because Justin had to bottle it up, he ended up exploding down the line. You get what I'm saying? Something like that? Yeah. It might it might lead to people looking back now at all the interviews in the past, seeing what was the body language and behavior like. You know what I'm saying? The important thing, what you need to acknowledge is, of course, falling outs can occur, and disagreements are normal and arguments are normal when it comes to friends, family members, or people much closer, or people that were once close but still stay in touch, right? It can be normal, that. I guess under the circumstances of the Dylan Rounds missing person case and the family being impacted mostly, it can still make sense there because of the heightened tension and emotions, that it can be difficult to process and to act and get on with stuff. So there might be the odd outburst or lack of control. I get that. My only question would be, why now? Why not earlier on? Is it because the frustration is building? Because even though they said they're confident that they will find Dylan, but they haven't yet, so it's starting to kick in, and it's like, oh, need to do something. Really need to do something. Desperate times, desperate measures. Oh, I'm gonna call out Don Haley again to try and get an answer. And Candice Cooley is in the background thinking, what are you doing? This ain't helping. This really isn't helping. So maybe other conversations in the background have taken place in the past when telling off Justin Rounds for opening his mouth public when he shouldn't. But all I would want to know is, did Justin ever answer back when Candice Cooley was publicly calling out the LE and certain evidence which was not supposed to be talked about supposedly at certain points? Is it just one-sided, or is it like give and take? I don't know. I want to know your thoughts on it, right? So what we're going to do now, because we can always refer back to this later, we're just going to catch back up on a recent article, news coverage of the court hearing by Brenner, okay, which we saw previously, 5th of June. We're going to read through it now just to check for any inconsistencies, contradictions, mistakes made, and clear it up. Maybe we might even find something of interest which we've not seen before. But the only way to find out is to read it. And then once we've got that done, then we can conclude, okay? So make sure to stick around. If you have just suddenly joined, it's very important that you do rewind back to catch up, because some very important stuff has been talked about today, breaking news, drama, conflict, okay? So let's head on over now to that news article. So here is the article. The title reads, "Man accused of killing Dylan Rounds appears in Brigham City Court on murder and other charges." Written by Will Feelwright, June the 7th, 2023. That's an interesting surname, Feelwright. I guess it's always good to feel that way. Isn't that right, Watcher of Crazy? I think in the past there was someone called Feel Good. Feel good, feel right. I wonder if they're related in some way or another. Anyway, let's begin reading this. Apologies if you do hear any rumbling in the background. I think a thunderstorm is coming, but still there is no rain and it is really hot. And as I said, if you wonder why my breathing is a bit messed up, it's just because it is difficult to breathe in this room because it's so warm. And I can't open the window because then the noise disruption from outside. So yeah, it is very uncomfortable. But as said, it's very important to be covering this news and keeping the case alive, regardless of how wet or sticky I am at this moment in time. Okay, because of the hotness. Anyway, let's begin reading. Box Elder County. A 59-year-old squatter has appeared in court on charges of allegedly murdering Dylan Rounds, a 19-year-old man who went missing in May 2022. Right, so I think we're going to be reading another dodgy article at this rate because they've actually made a spelling mistake as well. So where do we begin first? Well, first of all, it says that Brenner was a 59-year-old squatter at the Grangeshed property. It doesn't really explain where he's from or where he was squatting at in the title or the little caption of this article, right? So it fails to do that. And most people will say, oh, yeah, but Brenner wasn't squatting. He was living there. He was allowed there. He was like appointed as a caretaker in that area. And yet this article is saying that Brenner was squatting. So once again, we are seeing the divide between a certain set of people that strongly believe that Brenner was living there normally, and then the others, like Candice Cooley, the news articles, media, court documents, are claiming that Brenner was squatting. So who is correct at the end of the day? Let me know. As well, it says that has appeared in court on charges of allegedly murdering Dylan Rounds. Do they say the word allegedly because Brenner hasn't truly been convicted yet and it's still ongoing, so they've got to use the correct wording? Is that so? Because, you know, Candice Cooley is like, it's obvious that Brenner is the one. You see the evidence stacked against him and this and that. You know, it's obvious, but the way it's wording it here, allegedly, supposedly, right? Not 100% for definite. I guess maybe they're just being careful with the wording. Just let me know if you think it's the correct choice of wording or not. And it also says, Dylan Rounds, a 19-year-old man at the time, how went? They misspelt. They should have said, who went missing in May 2022? Yeah, it's a little bit dodgy, this article, right? Let's continue reading. It says, according to court documents, James A. Brenner was in First District Court in Brigham City for a brief hearing Monday. He was previously charged with aggravated murder, a first-degree felony, abuse or desecration of a dead body, and 3 counts of possession or use of a firearm, all third-degree felonies. Now, most of that checks out correctly, but the bit where it says 3 counts of possession or use of a firearm, I don't remember seeing it worded like that in the official court documents. I think it just simply said 3 counts of possession of having firearms, but nothing about using them. So does this article know more than others do? I don't know. All third-degree felonies. It says Dylan Rounds was originally reported missing on May 30th, 2022, correct? Multiple agencies, along with search and rescue crews, began searching but were never able to locate him. However, deputies discovered a pair of his boots that matched his DNA. Right. Most of that checks out. Does it give the actual location where the boots were found, or is it just very vague and poorly worded? So the pair of boots, or pair of Dylan's boots, were found at the dirt mound near to the grain shed property, okay? About 100, 200 yards away. And it's saying that matched his DNA. It's very vague the way this has been worded. There was DNA found on the boots which matched to Brenner, i.e. fingerprints, handprints, because Brenner picked up the boots and took them down to the dirt mound. And then there was a droplet of blood, which people say hasn't got anything to do with the case, but Candice Cooley, the police and official court documents say the other, and say that it was Dylan's blood. That little droplet on one of the boots belonged to Dylan. The way it's worded here is very poorly worded. It's missing out the location where the boots were found, the dirt mound, and it's also failing to explain what type of DNA was found on the boot. Fingerprints, handprints of DNA to do with Brenner picking up the boots and moving them down there, and a little bit of blood, a droplet, on one of the boots which belonged to Dylan. There we go, that clears that up. It also says, cell phone footage obtained showed movements on the day of Round's disappearance on a property in Lucin where officials determined Brenner was squatting at a nearby trailer. Once again, it's saying that Brenner was squatting, but other people say he wasn't. Once again, it's very poorly worded, this. It doesn't mention the exact property or what the property was. It was the grain shed property nearby, which is owned by different parcels of land, different people, okay? Yeah, it's not mentioned here. the wording of this all is done very different to all the other articles, but it's no better. Arguably, it's worse. Let's continue on. According to a probable cause statement, Round's last signal to his phone was pinged to a Lucin pond not far from where Brenner was staying. Yeah, that makes sense. Charging documents described, in quotes, a digital forensic download of the phone was conducted and led to the discovery of a time-lapse video with a timestamp taken at the time of the victim's disappearance. Yeah, that's correct, but it doesn't give much explanation. It was at 7:27 a.m. That was the timestamp, okay? So before 7:27 a.m. is when Dylan was taken out. 6:58 a.m. was the last call made by Dylan towards Brenner, which wasn't answered. So it was within like a 30-minute period of how long it took to take Dylan Rounds out and kill him, okay? So it's very vague once again, the description. It says the documents released stated that there was bloodstains on Brenner's arm and shirt as he was cleaning a gun in the video footage found. Yep, that checks out. In quotes, the shirt which defendant Brenner is wearing in the video was analysed and the victim's DNA of Dylan was found on the shirt, court documents said. Okay. Berks Elder County officials said evidence supports that Brenner is the only suspect in connection to the killing of Rounds, whose remains have yet to be found. Okay, that seems to check out. Brenner was arrested and charged in June 2022 with a federal weapons offence. The FBI had alleged Brenner had possession of firearms despite his status as a convicted felon. True. That seems to check out. Of course, if I do miss anything within this text article and you find it to be suspicious or contradictory, whatever, inaccurate, list it down below and add on. Fill in the blank spots if need be. It says, during Monday's hearing, Brenner's defense attorney Michael Studebaker asked Judge Brendan Maynard to appoint co-counsel to assist in the defense and also requested time to work through the evidence in the case and determine whether or not to request a preliminary hearing when prosecutors would present their evidence in the case. Brenner was ordered to remain in federal custody and appear in court again July 31st. Is that it? So it was interesting how this article, although talking about what's relevant now, the court hearing, the latest one, it was also referring back to previous evidence found, like the Brenner's shirt and the forensic deep dive finding the footage from Dylan's phone of Brenner incriminating evidence, right? The other articles in recent time haven't really referred back to that, so that's kind of different. But for the most part of it, a lot of mistakes made within this article, missing key bits of information, missing timestamps, missing dates, etc. Yeah, it was saying about the final phone ping of Dylan's phone found in Lucin Pond, but did it say what date, what day it was found on? June 18th or June 19th, around that, literally. 2022, I need to add in as well. So, yeah, I'm disappointed by this article, probably one of the worst ones yet. Written by Will Feel Right. You might feel right, but you got the information wrong. Let's move on. So I appreciate it to all the people that were able to remain watching this video from, the beginning till the end almost. That's very good because it's important to maintain focus at a time like this and understanding. I'll be honest with you, I do strongly feel that there will be resistance on this video. The names and people, what we've heard recently calling me out, falsely accusing me of being associated with certain people, which there is no real proof to suggest that. Yeah, it's very messy, okay? Do we need to do a video response to that down the line? Maybe if there's any mess after tonight, we just see how things go. As said, leave comments down below. Leave your own thoughts or questions. Make sure to like the video to spread awareness of this so you get like an idea of what's going on, because most people wouldn't know of this because the posts were deleted. So once again, with credit to the odd individual that was able to get the screenshots of it, of course, Once again, I am the only channel out there covering the Dylan Rounds case to cover something like this. No one else would have covered this on YouTube from the looks of it. People might have talked about certain themes and topics about this type of stuff, but not with the actual material to prove it. Like how some go on. So yeah, I mean, for the past few weeks, we've been looking and covering and uncovering all kinds of stuff which really no one else would know of. You might get 10 to the power of life or 10 to the dozen, whoever that female is with the glasses that covers the case every now and then. You might get the odd other channel out there which will come on in and cover the case, and it's like, do you incorporate any of the recent stuff which, you know, most people don't know of? No, because they don't know themselves. See, this is locked on, right? And just to reiterate for future people down the line, okay, the patterns and trends of this case, the Dylan Rounds one, is always be alert, not just with the people that might come in that might target you down the line for drama stuff, but that could happen. Also, be alert and ready and prepared that there could be channels out there, YouTube channels, or it could be people more direct in the case on other platforms that might post something, say something, and delete it afterwards. So just be active, or try and be alert to make notes of this stuff. If you see anything kind of interesting, suspicious, a red flag, maybe screenshot it, maybe note it down, take a photo, whatever, because you never know. The next time you load that screen back up, it might not be there anymore. So just be cautious of that, because it has shown in more recent time. Who knows what will happen next? But as said, there could be a high, maybe not lots, but a high intensity of resistance from people that failed to watch this entire video and start making all kinds of claims. If that does happen, people watching right now, feel free to respond back to those comments. I know people right now will be saying, no drama, no this, no that. There are times where you've got to counter drama with the truth to extinguish any fires from spreading, right? Kind of like in the past when there was slander, false accusations aimed towards me, etc., with past cases, I had to explain stuff. So if new people came on in, they knew what was up, right? Obviously, regular viewers might know what the situation is and know who you are, and there won't be brainwashed or anything like that, but no harm in clearing this stuff up, right? Because if you don't, and new people come on in and they hear it from the wrong side, the wrong type of people, first impressions will be negative of you. So that's why you've got to clear things up as you go along. And as well, document it too. That's why some of these prats and people that are causing unnecessary issues are not blocked. There's no point blocking them. Let them do or say what needs to be done, and then it's all public. They're showing themselves up, and you can document it as evidence if it needs to be used down the line. It's as simple as that. So as I said, I think there could be resistance in this video in the comment section, but if you want to extinguish the fire, feel free to do so, okay? Hopefully you were able to follow the video and it was somewhat easy to understand. It is very unfortunate timing how such a critical, important video is in line with a really hot room where it's noisy as well on the outside with all the trains coming and going and planes. The atmosphere is very dense and thick that, keep inhaling, exhaling. It really does annoy me, okay? Because I want it to be smooth. I don't like it when it's messy like this and I feel uncomfortable, but there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. And take in mind, the UK doesn't have aircon for most part of it because it's not like this all the time. But when it is like it, the weather, it's bad. And it's the thing, other countries and even parts in the US will have it hotter, but they're a little bit more used to it. Sure, they'll still have it rough, but they're a little bit more used to it. the weather here in the UK, it could be very hot, then it could be very cold. It's one extreme to another for most part of it. So there's never enough time for the body to adapt and get used to whatever temperature, right? But I always prefer it to be cold because it's easier to warm up than it is to cool down in hot weather, right? That's almost like a fact for definite, to be honest. To cool down in times of heat, you might need additional equipment and it might be more costly. But if you want to keep warm when it's cold, either put a few layers on, even do exercise, jogging on the spot, press ups, and it doesn't cost anything, right? And it's very easy to do. But when it's the other way around and hot, it is harder and more temporary. So it's not good. I hate the weather. There was thunder before, but there was no rain. So I don't know when it will rain. It's like been weeks now since it's rained. So that's really annoying. And I'm sticky. Am I more stickier than toe jam? I don't know. Am I more sticky than American honey? Wow, maybe. But I guess it is what it is. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video and you were able to follow it for most part of it. Apologies if the flow isn't quite there, but that's just because of the stupid temperatures. And yeah, be sure to like this video and spread awareness of the breaking news of what's gone down recently and the possible damage it could have caused to certain key individuals out there, people of interest like Don Haley, who could well be a witness in the eyes of Candice Cooley, even though she hasn't really said that wording in interviews, but maybe there's a reason for it. Though, as I said, all public information, end of the day, all done by Justin. We'll leave it there. If there are very, very serious grievances, list it down below and then we can go from there. Thanks for watching. See what happens next. There are videos to cover, don't worry about that. And yeah, goodbye and good night for now.